Now there's a thing they say about computers, crap in, crap out, right? If you put garbage into a computer, you get garbage out. That's how the computer models came up with global warming. International law is where it's leading, and this is the cause of global warming. Stands back in amazement. You mean the sun has an effect on Earth temperature? Are you kidding? What happens is the sun goes in cycles. It generates what are called sunspots, which are massive explosions of energy powered out into the solar system, which comes to the Earth eventually as solar radiation. Some of these explosions, called sunspots, are as big as the Earth and even as big as Jupiter. When it is exploding energy, the temperature goes up. This is what these sunspots are. You can see them here. I think they might have a bearing on temperature. I think so. This is the recent sunspot cycle coming round, all the rest of it. And of course there are cycles where you have a sunspot cycle going round at this level of temperature, and then you have a cycle going around at this level of temperature, so that as the cycles go round, it's hotter or cooler in the different cycles as we pass through what we call time. Now, other planets in the solar system have been warming up. I don't know whether you've seen them factories on Mars. Them bloody Martians and them 4x4s, you know, it's bloody outrageous. Now, what is the common denominator of these other planets than the Earth? Can't work it out. Must be the sun. Now, this is the great one. The temperature's higher than it's ever been since records began. When did they begin? 1862? That's 5 minutes ago in weather cycles. What are you talking about? Back about 800 years ago, they had the medieval warm period. This is mainstream science. This is not me coming up with alternative stuff. The medieval warm period, the temperature was higher than it is now. Okay? What caused the temperature to be higher in the medieval warm period than it is now? Could it have been turbocharged handcarts? What do you reckon? Could be. Flatulent horses, maybe. I can just see a medieval weather forecaster arriving in the village. Dobbin's got the wind, I think we're in for hot summer. And I'm mad? After the medieval warm period, and of course if they took back the temperatures to then global warming looks very different now. But what they do is they take it back to a period called the Little Ice Age, when the temperature dropped to the point where the Thames froze over, and they used to have ice fairs on the Thames. You can still see depictions of it in Christmas cards and stuff. It just so happens that during the medieval warm period there was a period of increased solar radiation, and during the Little Ice Age there was a decrease in solar radiation. So if you follow the red, which is the Earth temperature, and the green is sunspot activity, I think there might be some connection there myself. Let's come forward. Again, the green is sunspot activity, the red is Earth temperature. Up to 1940 it was rising as we came out of the Little Ice Age. After the war, this period included, when there was a massive increase in industrialization and therefore carbon emissions, temperatures fell from 1940 to 1975 to such an extent that the BBC were running documentaries about the dangers of the coming ice age. Yeah, I remember that. From 75 it started to climb as sunspot activity climbed. This is a scientist, I saw his presentation a few weeks ago, called Peter Taylor. Now this man is no, the oil companies are paying him scientist. He's a former advisor on pollution and energy policy to national governments, the EU and the UN, and he was a lead advocate for Greenpeace. He was the man who broke the story through a Yorkshire television documentary years ago, when Yorkshire television did some really good documentaries, about the cancer clusters around what was called Windscale, now Sellafield, and the connection between the two. This is what Peter Taylor, an Greenpeace advocate at one time, says about global warming. Behind the scenes there is major disagreement among scientists. I know that. People at the cutting edge of their discipline are saying it's a nonsense, it doesn't stand up. They don't get the platform that the song sheet scientists get. Parallel to carbon dioxide rising, the solar field has increased by over 200% since 1900, and this is not factored into computer models. Global temperature is not rising as predicted. In fact, it fell by a whopping 0.6 degrees over the last 12 months, as much as it had gained in the previous 50 years. Many of the apparently random fluctuations of past temperature, like when Vikings grew crops in Greenland, correlate to variations of the solar electric field. Between 1983 and 2001, cloud cover, according to International Satellite Cloud Climatology project, fell by 4% more than enough to heat oceans and account for global warming. A spate of recent science shows that temperature oscillations are timed by solar cycles, that the jet stream is affected by the solar wind, and that past high and low points in the solar cycle correlate with past temperature swings.
I'm not an expert around here.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
It was a famous song by Beatles. Paraphrasing a famous song, it was "Here Comes the Sun," the title. Let's hope we can still say this in the years to come. I feel the ice is slowly melting. We need to keep long, cold winters. Here comes the sun, and we must make sure it's all right.
These reports aren't my facts. This is not me with this narrow-minded point of view.
We are a democracy, we are a plural society in Europe, and we have, of course, all sorts of opinions. Those who strongly believe that climate change is already happening and that we have not to lose any time to fight it, but we have as well climate change deniers, those who deny that this is the case, and of course they will raise their voice and deny that anything with meat production will have to do with climate change or climate protection.
Well, as usual, at the risk of being the pantomime baddie, look, this is happy hour on the funny farm, isn't it? I mean, the fact of the matter is you've got global warming written there in front of you. You know, why was the globe actually warmer 1,000 years ago during the medieval warm period in comparison to what it is now? Why was it warmer 2,000 years ago during the Roman warm period when we were producing wine as far north as Scotland? I mean, come on, the globe hasn't warmed for the past 10 years. It's a scientific fact. It's out there. So look, you know, the European Union is using climate change, it's using global warming to justify its own existence. And poor old Paul McCartney has been duped, I'm afraid. You know, and just to take one thing up with you, Mr. Chairman, at the start, you said that people who are climate change sceptics are deniers. Now, I'm sorry, being German and all, I'm sure you know the connotations that the term denier has, and I think you should call us sceptics, actually, because we are. And also Mr. Macmillan Scott, who said he'd been to the airport to pick up Sir Paul. I mean, it's a bit of a con, isn't it? You know, it's do as I say and not as I do. You know, so, look, as a bit of a protest, we in the UK Independence Party are holding a barbecue out on Plas Lux. You're all invited. It's called All You Need Is Meat, and we'll be celebrating meat at 12 o'clock today.
I do everything I can. Unfortunately, I can't. They haven't invented microphones that work on candle power.